So I'm going to talk about things seen from a little bit of a different viewpoint. I'll talk a bit more about, specifically what does Singapore have to offer you as a business owner or a, executive from Norway going into Asia through Singapore. So I would say Singapore is a talent hub, going back to what Marie said about people. I think we have a really business first government in Singapore. And there is a lot of support that is available for especially high-tech businesses going into and setting up in Singapore. So I'll talk a bit more about that. Let's just move on. Oops. A little bit about myself. I came to Singapore in 2003. I was an angel investor. I was originally a .com founder. I ended up here. It was a good time to be in Asia. Next slide, please. And in 2016, we set up a small venture capital fund. Just press space.
Should be okay now. Just directly.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. So we run a small venture capital fund. We target B2B enterprise tech companies in Southeast Asia. We have an investable set of cash of around 60 million US that we use to go in early stage companies. You have, for example, a very famous accelerator in Singapore around the world, Antler, operating out of Singapore. We are kind of at the stage after accelerators like Antler. Another sign that Singapore is interesting for high tech and any kind of businesses. Yeah, this is my business partner, our investment director. Let's move on from that. So let's go back to Singapore. Why is Singapore interesting? I think Singapore is an incredibly good and safe place to start your expansion into Asia. As I said, having one person here is so much better than having none. And if you're thinking about, lean business and not spending too much, sometimes expanding into markets happen opportunistically, like Marie again said, by pull from customers. If you really want to push it out, I think it's a good idea to probably start small and very pointed. And then, Singapore is probably a good place to start and then kind of see where does demand come from. Singapore is designed, I think, if you go back to early 2000 and even before, to really be a global business hub. I think what happened in Singapore post 2000 was that they also really created an environment for high tech and innovative tech businesses and entrepreneurship as well. So why do I say that? They have an amazing infrastructure. What I write on our own web pages is that you can reach half the world's population within a 7-hour flight from the airport. That's an interesting way to look at it. They have a really good transshipment seaport, the world's top transshipment seaport. And, digital connectivity is really good. We have fiber across the entire island. Political stability, you can discuss that as good or bad. For business, is pretty good. The same party has ruled the country since independence. And, the business policies are quite predictable. That means that if you operate a set of business here and, you do that with certain parameters like tax or other parameters, you can be pretty sure that will continue or become better. They also have, if you look at different global rankings of economic freedom, they have been ranking #1 there for the 3rd year in a row. They have a really developed e-government and very low tax rates for businesses, 17% corporate tax rate, no capital gains tax. If you compare all of this to the other countries around Singapore, not necessarily in Europe, but around Singapore, Singapore stands out even more with those features. The workforce in Singapore, you can say it's relatively expensive compared to other countries, like if you go to Vietnam or Indonesia, but it's well educated. English is the language that works everywhere. And they also have this concept of retraining the workforce and have continuous learning aspects to that. So that's also really good. And let's not forget the high quality of life. It's kind of attractive to stay here. If we forget COVID, Singapore has been a great place to be. The world hasn't been a great place to be anywhere. They actually kind of handle that pretty well. They have good international schools, good education system, and the food is fantastic, and you can travel to great places from Singapore. The next point is, as we mentioned, that Singapore is really a talent and business hub. That means that when you move to Singapore and you have a person here, you also kind of meet people from all kinds of other businesses, because they are right now the leading location for Asian headquarters. They were already pretty up there. Hong Kong's kind of demise as an attractive location, I would say, is really helping Singapore to be an even stronger, clear winner of where kind of major businesses both establish their headquarters, being only in Asia, but also where global businesses establish their Asian headquarters. And that leads to, of course, them attracting more people and talent. I would say another part of Singapore is that they have excellent research centers, not only universities, which also kind of create a lot of smart people coming through. And it basically makes the whole country more vibrant, because you have that. You also have a lot of business accelerators. I mentioned Antler. There are also accelerators like Entrepreneur First and a lot of other excellent ways to even kickstart your business from scratch, up to, of course, a lot of venture capital and later stage funding, if that's also what you're doing. I guess we're mainly talking about here establishing a sales presence in Singapore. We're not really talking about moving our business and starting your business in Singapore, but obviously that are also aspects that could work out well. So, okay, why is this interesting? Largest number of headquarters in Asia, best selection of talent if you look across Asia, and also top ranked workforce. And then what I spend more time on is kind of the smart nation tech business aspect, where Singapore has done a lot to kind of attract innovative companies, especially tech companies, high-tech companies, that they see as, really important for Singapore's long-term growth. And because they see it as so important for long-term growth, they're willing to really support people bringing companies here. And that can be, as I said, it could be the company itself, but also subsidiaries that are owned by a Norwegian company setting up here. The only aspect that you need to be careful of is that a lot of the support schemes require at least a 30% local shareholding. That means that you would have to raise funds, for example, from an investor, or have a shareholder that then is local and owns 30% of the local company. As long as you have at least 30%, though, that unlocks a lot of value, especially for early stage businesses, but also for later stage. So let me just go very quickly through this. You can go to the homepage of Enterprise Singapore. You can go to other government agencies. They have a very great way of, they have a very systematic way of explaining the different grants. A grant that I have dealt with a bit is what is called proof of concept and proof of value grant. And that is for a proof of concept up to $250,000, up to proof of value up to $500,000, which basically are available to companies that either would like to just prove themselves on a new technology, or it could be a new emerging technology from a company that already is doing something else. So if you are launching a new technology, for example, and you do that out to the Singapore entity, you qualify for these grants that are on a reimbursement basis. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, similar to the Norwegian Financial Authority, has a fintech grant up to 400K. And there's also something called a market readiness grant from Enterprise Singapore that gives you up to 100,000 Singapore dollars. 1 Singapore dollar is around 6-7 kroners, I guess now. That supports each market. So it's $100,000 ready as a readiness grant per market. If you want to move in as an entrepreneur and you're not coming from a large company, there's an Entrepass scheme that gives you a visa to Singapore for up to 2 years, where you have time to establish your business. Another interesting thing in Singapore that has been done in other parts of the world is so-called sandboxing. That means that you can operate without having to worry about local regulation or laws. And that is available in Singapore in fintech and in energy sectors, where you can basically operate within a safe space, and you then work with the relevant authorities to probably change the regulatory framework as you develop new business ideas or new technologies. Super interesting. That's all I have.